The judge was only seconds away from finalizing my divorce, until a weak, crystal-clear voice echoed through the courtroom, and my daughter's cracked tablet lit up. Everything changed. The courtroom fell completely silent. I could hear the ticking clock pounding against my skull. I sat frozen in my chair, my rough construction worker hands locked together so tightly my knuckles turned white. Cold sweat dripped down my palms. Across the polished wooden table sat Sarah, my wife. No, my soon-to-be ex-wife. She sat perfectly straight in her expensive designer suit without a single wrinkle. Her face was cold. Her eyes were filled with disgust whenever they landed on me. Her lawyer wore a smug smile. They had won. They had taken everything from me. My money, my house, and worst of all, custody of my daughter. I had been branded a violent drunk. Every accusation was a lie. But nobody believes a construction worker. The judge sighed heavily as he flipped to the final page of the file. His arm slowly lifted. The wooden gavel hovered in the air, ready to destroy what remained of my life. One strike would separate me forever from the little girl I loved more than my own heartbeat. My chest tightened. I closed my eyes and prepared myself for the end. Welcome back to Dad's real-life revenge. Grab a drink, some snacks, sit back and remember this: every person in these stories had every chance to do the right thing. They simply chose wrong. Subscribe for more intense family drama stories and leave a comment with number 1 so we can begin this story. Then a tiny trembling voice broke through the suffocating silence. Your Honor, can I show the court something my daddy doesn't know about? The small voice sliced through the room like a blade. It was Lily, my 7-year-old daughter. She slowly stood from the back row. Her faded pink dress looked worn out at the edges. In her tiny hands was a pink tablet with a shattered screen. Every eye in the courtroom turned toward her. Sarah flinched instantly. The color drained from her face. The smile on her shark lawyer's face froze solid. She tried to stand and stop Lily, but the judge raised his hand before she could move another inch. I turned to stare at my daughter, completely confused. That tablet was the gift I had saved months to buy for her. But it had been broken for over a month. Why did she bring it here? What was she hiding from me? Lily walked forward, one tiny step at a time. Her eyes never left the judge. The cracked screen reflected the pale neon lights hanging above the courtroom. A horrifying secret was about to come to light. A secret hidden inside my little girl's broken toy. This story will completely change the way you see trust. If you believe the truth always finds a way to win, hit, like, and stay with me until the very end of this shocking secret. Watching little Lily walk toward the witness stand made my chest tighten so hard I could barely breathe. Suddenly the past came rushing back like a slow-motion movie. Before the storm destroyed everything, I once had it all. A family, a home, and a love I believed could never be broken. It all started 8 years earlier, on a pouring rainy afternoon. I was a poor construction worker back then, always covered in cement dust and dirt. That evening I stepped into a tiny roadside diner to escape the rain. That was where I saw Sarah for the very first time. She was the new waitress. Her warm smile melted away the coldness of the storm outside. The purity in her eyes touched the heart of a rough, exhausted construction worker like me. We fell in love with a simple and honest kind of love. I worked myself to exhaustion every single day. I took extra shifts, overtime, anything I could find. From sunrise until late into the night, I pushed my body beyond its limits. I only had one goal: to give the woman I loved a better life. The day Lily was born became the happiest moment of my entire life. Her tiny cries echoed through the cramped hospital room. When the nurse gently placed that little angel into my arms, I broke down crying. My rough hands, covered in scars and calluses, trembled as I held her close to my chest. At that moment, I silently promised myself I would protect this little girl with my life. Lily grew up surrounded by my endless love. She had bright eyes and the same radiant smile Sarah had the day we first met. Every morning became sacred to me because I got to prepare breakfast for my daughter. I carefully used a knife to cut slices of bread into perfect little stars. Lily would squeal with excitement every time she saw them. She would wrap her tiny arms around my neck and whisper that I was the best dad in the whole world. Those star-shaped slices of bread became the symbol of our small but priceless happiness. I truly believed I was the luckiest man alive. I had a loving wife and a sweet little daughter. But life never stays peaceful forever. While I was busy building our home, invisible cracks had already started spreading through it. Slowly, my beautiful dream began falling apart. Sarah started changing in ways that terrified me. She stopped waiting for me at dinner every night. The warmth she once carried disappeared, replaced by a coldness that sent chills down my spine. I could feel a massive distance growing between us day after day. Something dark was happening inside my own home, and I had absolutely no idea. Sarah's transformation did not happen like a violent storm crashing into our lives. It was more like an invisible current slowly eating away at the foundation of our home piece by piece. At first the changes were so small I almost ignored them. A quiet sigh every time I walked through the front door, covered in mud and cement dust. A cold pull away whenever I tried to hug her after a long, exhausting day at work. Then Sarah announced she had joined a book club. I was actually happy for her. I thought she needed time for herself after spending endless hours taking care of Lily. But the meetings slowly became stranger. She started coming home later and later. Midnight became normal. Sometimes even later. Whenever I asked about it, she snapped at me immediately. She accused me of trying to control her life. One night I sat alone in the dark living room waiting for her. Every light in the house was off except the pale glow from the street lamp outside the window. The clock struck 1 in the morning. Then I heard the sound of keys unlocking the front door. Sarah stepped inside quietly. I stood up to help carry her bag. But the moment she walked past me, a strange scent hit me straight in the face. It was not perfume, not flowers, not air freshener. It was men's cologne. Strong, expensive, sophisticated. The kind of scent that did not belong anywhere near the world of a construction worker like me. I froze completely. Sarah noticed my expression and instinctively stepped backward. Panic flashed across her face for only a second before the coldness returned. I asked her about the smell. She looked at me with open disgust. Then she called me paranoid. She claimed it came from scented oils, used at the cafe where her book club met. I wanted to believe my wife. God help me, I forced myself to believe her. I became desperate to save our marriage. I convinced myself the problem was me. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe Sarah felt lonely. So I started cutting back my hours at the construction site. I accepted less money just so I could come home earlier. I cleaned the house. I cooked all her favorite meals. I washed clothes. I took care of Lily so Sarah could rest. But every effort I made was met with contempt. Sarah stared at the meals I cooked like they disgusted her. She mocked the clothes I wore. She called me a man with no ambition. She told me my presence made her feel trapped. Then came the moment that shattered whatever hope I still had left. One afternoon, I accidentally found a receipt inside Sarah's jacket while doing laundry. It was from an expensive luxury restaurant. Dinner for 2. The date on the receipt was the exact same afternoon she claimed she was working overtime. After that, I started noticing strange details everywhere around the house. A luxury car occasionally parked near the end of our street on mornings when I left for work early. And then there were Lily's drawings. Recently, she kept drawing the same strange man over and over again. A man with a thick beard standing beside Sarah. Whenever I asked who he was, Lily became terrified. She quickly hid the drawings and burst into tears. Then she whispered something that nearly stopped my heart. Mommy told me not to tell Daddy. Pain twisted through my chest so violently I could barely breathe. The dream I had built about our happy family was collapsing right in front of my eyes. The invisible cracks had finally revealed their true form. It was betrayal, ruthless and unforgivable betrayal. My suspicions finally received their answer on a horrifying Sunday afternoon. The house was so quiet it felt unnatural. Lily was asleep in her tiny bedroom. I sat alone in the living room on the same old worn-out couch I had assembled with my own hands 8 years earlier. This was the exact spot where Lily had taken her first steps. The exact corner of the house once filled with laughter and warmth. Then Sarah walked through the front door. She did not remove her coat. She stood directly in front of me like a stranger. Her eyes were ice cold. Without saying a word, she threw a thick stack of papers onto the wooden table. The sound cracked through the silence like a gunshot. I lowered my eyes. Divorce petition. The words stabbed straight through my chest like a blade. Slowly I looked up at my wife, but my throat felt too tight to speak. Sarah stared directly into my eyes. Her voice was calm in the cruelest possible way. She said our marriage had been a mistake. She said she could no longer live with a rough, poor construction worker like me. I fought to stay calm. I asked her about the bearded man in Lily's drawings. I asked her about the strange men's cologne from that night. Sarah did not even blink. She denied everything without hesitation. Then she accused me of being paranoid, sick, pathologically jealous. She insisted she had done nothing wrong. According to her, the only reason for the divorce was simple. She no longer loved me. But her cruelty was only beginning. The front door suddenly opened again. A middle-aged woman walked inside wearing a sharp black business suit and carrying a polished leather briefcase. It was Sarah's lawyer. I recognized her immediately. She was famous in divorce court. A shark. The kind of attorney who destroyed people for a living. She calmly walked over and sat beside Sarah. The way she looked at me made me feel less than human, like I was some worthless piece of trash sitting in my own home. Then she started speaking. Her voice was sharp, controlled, merciless. She told me I had absolutely no chance of fighting back. Sarah would take everything, the house, the savings, every asset we owned. But the next words nearly killed me. I would not receive custody of Lily. My entire body went numb. That was the moment I realized this had been planned long before that afternoon. Every cold glance, every late night, every lie. They had been preparing this trap for months, and now they were ready to destroy me with it. I sat there feeling completely alone. I was just a construction worker, a nobody. How could a man like me fight people with money, lawyers, and power? Rage burned inside my chest, so hard it felt poisonous. But underneath the anger was something even worse. Helplessness. The most brutal battle of my life had officially begun the moment those papers hit the table. And just like that, the trap was finally activated. The preliminary court hearing moved so fast I barely had time to breathe. Sarah and her shark lawyer had prepared everything perfectly. They did not just want a divorce. They wanted to destroy me completely. They turned me into a monster in the eyes of the law. Inside the courtroom, the lawyer slammed thick stacks of documents onto the table one after another. Every page was part of a carefully manufactured lie. She stood before the judge and confidently declared that I was a severe alcoholic. According to her, I came home drunk almost every night and destroyed furniture in violent rages. Then she presented receipts from a convenience store near our house, showing repeated alcohol purchases under my name. I stared at those papers in shock. I had never bought any of it. That was when I realized Sarah had secretly used my credit card for months to build fake evidence against me. But they were far from finished. Next came the accusations of domestic violence. Sarah suddenly broke into tears and showed photographs of bruises covering her arms. My entire body went cold when I saw them. I had never once laid a violent hand on my wife. Not once. I instantly understood what had happened. Either she had hurt herself, or the other man had done it. And now they were blaming me. But the deadliest blow came last. They accused me of being an absent father. The lawyer held up years of construction work timesheets like they were evidence in a murder case. Every overtime shift, every long workday, every sacrifice I had made to provide for my family was twisted into proof that I neglected my daughter. They claimed I lacked the moral character to raise a child. I looked toward the judge desperately, but his expression had already changed. He looked at me with disappointment. Suspicion. The weak explanations of a construction worker meant nothing against carefully organized paperwork and rehearsed accusations. Then the temporary ruling came down. It felt like a death sentence. I lost temporary custody of Lily. I was only allowed to see my daughter once a week under strict supervision from a social worker. I walked out of the courthouse feeling hollow inside. Rain poured from the sky in violent sheets. I climbed into my old pickup truck, but never started the engine. I just sat there alone in the darkness while the rain hammered against the roof like fate itself was mocking me. Then I reached toward the back seat. Lily's old brown teddy bear was lying there. It was the stuffed animal she hugged every single night while sleeping. Her soft scent still lingered faintly in the fur. That was the moment everything inside me finally broke. I pulled the teddy bear tightly against my chest and collapsed forward onto the steering wheel, sobbing uncontrollably. I cried for the unbearable injustice of it all. I was a good father. I loved my daughter more than my own life. So how could liars steal her away from me so easily? The rage and helplessness inside my chest became almost impossible to contain. I swore to myself I would never give up. But deep down I had no idea how a broken construction worker could possibly fight people this cruel and this powerful. The darkest days of my life had officially begun. After the court's cruel ruling, I became nothing more than a ghost drifting through each day. I was only allowed to see Lily once a week, and every visit happened under the cold watch of a social worker. They stood nearby, holding a clipboard recording every word I said and every move I made like I was some dangerous criminal. Earlier that week, I met Lily at a small public park. The moment I saw her from a distance, my heart nearly stopped. My little girl had become painfully thin. Her cheeks were hollow. Her skin looked pale and lifeless. She no longer ran toward me, laughing and throwing herself into my arms the way she used to. Instead, Lily sat silently on a stone bench. Her eyes looked empty, terrified. I slowly sat beside her and gently reached for her tiny hand. But Lily pulled away instinctively. That single movement cut deeper than any knife ever could. My daughter was afraid of me, afraid of the father who loved her more than anything in this world. I tried to comfort her. I carefully pulled back the sleeve of her sweater to see if she was cold. Then my entire body froze. 3 dark bruises wrapped around her tiny wrist. Deep finger-shaped bruises. The unmistakable marks of an adult grabbing her far too hard. Panic exploded inside me. I immediately asked Lily what happened. But she started trembling the moment I mentioned the bruises. She refused to look me in the eyes. Her lips quivered as she shook her head over and over again. Then she whispered softly that she had fallen at school, but I knew she was lying. A 7-year-old child does not get bruises like that from simply falling down. The second our visit ended, I called Child Protective Services in complete desperation. I explained everything about Lily's bruises. I begged them to investigate. I pleaded for someone to help my daughter, but the answer I received felt like ice water poured directly into my soul. They said the bruises were too minor to prove abuse. Then they accused me of trying to manipulate the situation to gain leverage in court against my ex-wife. At that moment, I realized the system had completely abandoned us. The law was no longer protecting my daughter. It was protecting the people hurting her. Everything reached a breaking point the following day at the lawyer's office. We had one final meeting to sign additional paperwork for the divorce proceedings. Sarah walked into the office looking flawless. She wore an elegant black velvet dress and carried an expensive designer handbag. Beside her stood the shark lawyer with that same victorious smile stretched across her face. When the office assistant stepped out to get drinks, Sarah slowly walked toward me. Then she leaned down close to my ear, and suddenly I smelled it again. That same expensive men's cologne from months earlier. The same scent that had haunted me ever since that night. Sarah smiled cruelly. Then she whispered that I was nothing but garbage from the bottom of society, a worthless construction worker. She said I would never be capable of fighting her or the man she truly wanted. Then she challenged me to keep fighting in court. According to her, she would make sure I never saw my daughter again for the rest of my life. My fists clenched so tightly my nails cut into my palms until blood started dripping between my fingers. Rage burned through my entire body. I wanted to scream. I wanted to destroy everything around me, but I forced myself to stay silent. Because deep inside, I knew something important. Sarah was becoming too confident, too careless. The villains always believe they have already won right before everything collapses. And Sarah had absolutely no idea that a terrifying storm was already approaching from the one place she never expected. The day of the final hearing had finally arrived. The air inside the courtroom felt so heavy I could barely breathe. Today would decide everything. Either I would get my daughter back, or I would lose her forever to the cruel woman sitting across from me. Sarah entered the courtroom, looking completely confident. She wore a perfectly tailored cream-colored dress that made her appear elegant, graceful, almost innocent. Her makeup was soft and natural, carefully crafted to give the image of a loving mother who had suffered deeply. She sat down calmly with perfect posture. Then she looked at me. That look carried only one message: victory. Sarah truly believed she had already won. She knew every fake piece of evidence had been carefully prepared months in advance. Every lie was polished to perfection. Beside her, the shark lawyer calmly organized several thick folders across the table. Then she rose to her feet and approached the center of the courtroom with the confidence of a predator closing in for the kill. Her voice cut through the silence sharply. She humiliated me in front of everyone. She loudly declared that I was human trash from the bottom of society. According to her, a poor, violent construction worker like me did not deserve to breathe the same air as a child. Every word felt like a poisoned blade stabbing into my dignity. I glanced toward Sarah. A faint smile slowly curled across her lips. She was enjoying this. I lowered my eyes toward my rough hands covered in scars and calluses. My mind felt numb. The weight of helplessness crushed down on my chest so hard I thought I might collapse. What chance did a broken construction worker have against money manipulation and perfectly crafted lies? I felt myself sinking deeper and deeper into hopelessness. The entire courtroom seemed to have already judged me guilty. The judge looked at me sternly before lowering his gaze toward the fabricated abuse reports lying on the desk. Then he sighed heavily and slowly raised the wooden gavel into the air. Everything was over. My life as Lily's father was about to end forever. Then suddenly the courtroom doors burst open. Every head turned instantly. Lily walked inside, holding her old pink tablet with the shattered screen clutched tightly against her chest. The same broken tablet no one had cared about for months. My 7-year-old daughter slowly raised her tiny hand and looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, may I say something?" The entire courtroom fell silent. Sarah spun around so fast her chair nearly tipped backward. For the very first time, cracks began appearing in her perfect expression. Panic flashed openly across her face, because whatever was hidden inside that broken little tablet terrified her. The judge slowly nodded. Then he motioned for the court clerk to step forward. Lily's cracked pink tablet was connected to the large courtroom display system. Every pair of eyes locked onto the giant white screen at the front of the room. Silence wrapped around the courtroom so tightly it felt suffocating. Then the video began playing. The footage shook slightly. It was clearly recorded using the tablet's front camera. The setting appeared instantly familiar to me. Lily's bedroom. Our old house. The video showed Sarah sitting on Lily's bed. But the woman on that screen was not the elegant, graceful Sarah everyone saw in court. This version of her looked terrifying, cruel. Her hand was tightly gripping Lily's tiny wrist, exactly where I had seen those bruises. Then the audio echoed through the courtroom speakers with horrifying clarity. Sarah's voice hissed through clenched teeth. "I already told you what to say in court." Little Lily was crying in the video. "Mommy, I'm scared. I don't want to lie to the judge. Daddy didn't hurt you. Daddy doesn't drink alcohol." Suddenly Sarah slapped Lily hard across the shoulder. The entire courtroom flinched. Sarah screamed at her daughter. "It's not lying. It's protecting us. Do you want Mommy to go to jail? Do you want us to become homeless? You will tell them your father is violent and drunk. If you don't, you'll never see me again." The courtroom froze in absolute horror. Every lie, every accusation, every fake piece of evidence destroyed within seconds. The shark lawyer stood completely motionless. The thick folders slipped from her hands and scattered across the floor. But the video was not finished. Suddenly the bedroom door opened. A man walked into the frame. The moment his face appeared on the giant courtroom screen, my entire body went numb. A thick beard. The same man from Lily's drawings. The same shadow that had haunted my life for months. He wrapped his arms around Sarah's waist and laughed smugly. "Well done, babe. We're almost finished. Soon we'll have all that stupid construction workers' money. And then we're leaving the country." My mind exploded. Every ounce of rage I had buried inside myself erupted all at once. Sarah's lover was finally standing exposed in front of the entire courtroom. The conspiracy, the manipulation, the lies, the attempt to steal my daughter and destroy my life. Everything had finally been dragged into the light. I slowly turned towards Sarah. Can you imagine what I felt in that moment? I was trembling. Not from fear, not from sadness, from rage so powerful it made my entire body shake uncontrollably. The courtroom fell into a terrifying silence. Only Sarah's panicked breathing could be heard. Her perfect cream-colored outfit suddenly looked pathetic. Her shoulders trembled violently. Tears streamed down her face. But this time, those tears were not part of an act. These were tears of pure terror. The terror of someone whose mask had finally been ripped away in front of the world. The judge slowly removed his glasses. The disgust in his eyes was impossible to hide. Then he looked toward the shark lawyer, who now stood frozen with her head lowered, too ashamed to even speak. Bang! The judge slammed the gavel onto the wooden desk like a thunderclap. Then his voice echoed across the courtroom. All accusations against the father are hereby dismissed immediately. My chest nearly stopped moving. But the judge was not finished. He ordered court officers to arrest Sarah and her bearded accomplice on the spot for falsifying evidence, child abuse, defamation, and conspiracy to commit fraud. 2 officers immediately stepped forward. The sound of metal handcuffs clicking together echoed coldly through the room. Sarah completely lost control. She sobbed hysterically while grabbing the edge of the table. Then she turned toward me with desperate eyes, begging for help, calling my name over and over again. But I said nothing. I simply pulled Lily into my arms and covered her eyes gently with my hand, because no matter what Sarah had done, I did not want my daughter to witness her mother destroyed like this. The evil had finally paid the price for its crimes. The truth had won. Relief exploded inside my chest so violently I almost collapsed. I held Lily tightly and silently thanked that broken little tablet for saving both our lives. But just when the legal nightmare finally seemed over, one final secret suddenly emerged, a secret even bigger than everything that had already happened, and it would change the fate of my daughter and me forever. The DNA test report lay silently on the table. The result was impossible to misunderstand. Lily and I shared no biological connection. Sarah had deceived me from the very beginning. The little girl I loved more than my own life was another man's child. My mind spun violently. It felt like the entire world had collapsed around me all over again. Slowly, I turned toward Lily. She sat quietly in the corner of the room with tears filling her wide eyes. She looked terrified that I would abandon her. I walked toward her and slowly knelt down. The moment our eyes met, Lily let out a tiny sob and threw herself into my arms. She wrapped her little arms tightly around my neck and whispered through her tears, "Daddy, please don't leave me. You're the one who stayed and raised me. You're my real daddy." A tear rolled down my cheek. I held my little angel as tightly as I could, and suddenly, the truth about blood no longer mattered. The real thing was the love we had shared for 7 years. The real thing was every morning I carefully cut slices of bread into little stars for her breakfast. The real thing was every bedtime story, every hug, every laugh, every sacrifice. I smiled softly as peace slowly filled my heart for the very first time in months. And in that moment I understood something profound about life. Blood does not make someone a parent. Love does. The truth always finds its way into the light eventually. And people who plant storms in the lives of others will one day be destroyed by storms of their own making. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted the most? Share your story below so we can give each other strength. And do not forget to turn on notifications for more emotional stories coming soon from Dad's real-life revenge. Today, Lily and I live together in a small new apartment filled with sunlight and peace. Our new life began with the simplest things. Every morning I stand in the kitchen, carefully cutting slices of bread into little stars for my daughter, and every single time Lily still laughs with happiness. The storm is finally behind us.